Zimbabwe cash crisis worse. Talking about Venezuela once again. Systemic important banks. They removed the one factor in the thing right there called monetary indebtedness. Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some RT News updates. And today's article is a reference to a top global head of quantitative and derivative research for JP Morgan, who recently came out with a report basically stating the fact that the next crisis will be one like we've never seen in the last 50 years. And he basically mentioned that it'll be a lot of social unrest as well as a market correction, the likes of something we've not seen in quite a while. Today I want to share just a single article with you as well as some of the highlights from a report he just recently released and give you an idea as to what he's talking about. And as always, whenever there's a banker that's in the know comes out sharing information in reference to what is to come, it's definitely worth your time to pay closer attention to it. So before I dive any further,
the next recession.
Recession will be.
Will be a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months.
A crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
I go to bed every night, I dream of another recession. If you know what to do, if you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.
so as I mentioned, I have one article in reference to the statements made by this gentleman here and how the next crisis will be something like we've never witnessed in the last 50 years. And so he goes into great detail as to how the markets are not what people may think they are and the variety of methods that's been used to prop up the market to present this illusion of an economic expansion. But what's most noteworthy is the fact that we have a gentleman here who's the head of JP Morgan who was given permission, I would believe, to come out and just to give a little warning as to what is currently happening now and how, if he's concerned, it's good to say that his employers, as well as all those other bankers, are aware of what's going on and what's the state of the true economy that Wall Street and all these mainstream news aren't really telling us. But more importantly, I want you to take the time to read the article further for yourself, to pay attention to the words this gentleman uses here to describe where we're at now and what he sees being the catalyst for this shift, which will lead to social. So this article here is from CNBC in the finance section. It says, JP Morgan's top quant warns next crisis to have flash crashes and social unrest not seen in 50 years. And to give you some of the main points of this article here that we're going to dive into further is, it says JP Morgan's top quant Marco Kalanovic predicts a, quote, great liquidity crisis will hit financial markets marked by flash crashes in stock prices and social unrest. It says the $1 trillion shift to passive investments, computerized trading strategies, and electronic trading desks will exacerbate sudden, severe stock drops. It says central banks will be forced to make unprecedented moves, including direct purchase of equities, or there could even be negative income taxes, i.e. universal basic income. And so I'll give you a little idea as to what is going on here. It says sudden severe shock sell-off sparked by lightning fast machines, unprecedented actions by central banks to shore up asset prices, social unrest not seen in the U.S. in half a century. It says that's how JP Morgan's top quant Marco Kalanovic envisions the next financial crisis. It says the forces that have been transformed markets in the last decade, namely the rise of computerized trading and passive investing, are setting up conditions for potentially violent moves once the current bull market ends, according to reports sent out to bank clients on Tuesday. It says his note is part of a 168-page mega report. A 43-year-old analyst with a PhD in theoretical physics has risen in prominence for explaining and occasionally predicting how the new algorithm denominated stock market will behave. It says the current bull rally, the longest in modern history by some measures, has been categorized by extended periods of calm punctuated with spasms of selling known as flash crashes. So recent examples include a nearly 1,600 point intraday drop in February and an 1,100 point decline in August 2015. So basically hitting the fact that now computers run most of the investing and trading vehicles that used to be ran by men, and he fears the fact that one day one of these computer algorithms or whatnot might not respond correctly in the way a human would and cause some type of massive sell-off. Says, quote, if you have these liquidity-driven sharp sell-offs that come at the end of a cycle, or maybe even cause the end of a cycle, then I think you can have much more significant asset price correction and even more significant increase in market volatility. So basically it sounds like one of his concerns is the fact that all this volatility that's been occurring in the markets could be a trigger for one of these algorithms or whatnot to cause a massive price sell-off, which could then have a ripple effect through all markets. And then it says here, no one to step in and buy. It says in his report, he explains that major market trends that occurred after the 2008 crisis exacerbate selling during moments of panic. It says the massive shift from active to passive managed investments, he estimates that $2 trillion has moved that way in the past decade, has removed a pool of buyers who can swoop in if valuations tumble, he wrote. So basically over the last 10 years, there's been about 2 trillion has been transferred over to some type of computer algorithm that does all the trading for it. It says the rise of automated trading strategies is also a factor because many quaint hedge funds are programmed to automatically sell into weakness, he said. It says together, index and quaint funds now make up as much as 2/3 of assets under management globally, and 90% of daily trading comes from those or similar strategies. So basically, human beings don't run the markets, computers do. So that's one of the things that concerns him. Then it goes on here to the great liquidity crisis. It says, Kolanovic says that potential meltdown in stock prices could cause the next financial crisis. So here we have the idea that computers are running the systems. If there's some type of sell-off, they don't respond the way a human would, and they sell off further into a market, could cause some type of stock crisis, which would then lead to the next financial crisis. It says his name for it is the great liquidity crisis. It says if markets fall by 40% or more, the Federal Reserve would need to leap into action to prevent a spiral that led into depression, Kolanovic said. Says this could lead to unconventional actions, including direct purchase of equities, a move that Japan's central bank has already taken. So the fact that he says unconventional action. So here we are 10 years later, the monetary policy implemented has already been considered unconventional, and the fact that we have been near zero interest rates as well as QE and everything else has been put in place. So here he says the idea, if there is a market correction and stocks take a dive, the Federal Reserve might be forced to come in and then begin buying those stocks like they're doing in Japan. Says, quote, suddenly every pension fund in the U.S. is severely underfunded. Retail investors panic and sell while individuals stop spending. Quote, it says, if you have this type of severe crisis, how do you break this vicious cycle? The negative feedback loop. Maybe you stimulate the economy by cutting taxes further, perhaps even negative territory. I think most likely is direct central bank intervention in asset prices, maybe bonds, maybe credit, and perhaps equities if that's the eye of the storm. So here we have the idea that JP Morgan banker, one of their top individuals, is laying out a scenario of what could happen given the fact, and he's trying to point the blame on the fact that because of all this volatility in the markets, the computers aren't really programmed or in the know on how to respond the way that a human would. So the computers can play into the idea of there being some true market correction, which will then cause a panic, which will then force the Federal Reserve to get involved and do more unprecedented monetary policy. So I would encourage you to take the time to listen to this video here because it's very informative. Then you scroll down to the bottom, it shines a little light here as to his thoughts on social unrest. It says, Kolanovic closes his report on an ominous note. Quote, the next crisis is also likely to result in social tensions similar to those witnessed 50 years ago in 1968. Then it shows a picture here of a police officer manhandling a gentleman here. And it says, in 1968, a demonstrator with his hands on his head is led by Chicago police down Michigan Avenue during a confrontation with police and National Guardsmen who battled demonstrators near the Conrad Hilton Hotel headquarters in Chicago. So just the idea that a possible playbook was just given by JP Morgan and banker lets us know what they already have in the works and what they already have planned as the possible steps that could lead to this next great recession. So lastly, I just want to scroll through some of the information shared in the report here. And it says 10 years after the financial crisis, it says a decade after the collapse of Lehman Brothers, JP Morgan takes a look back at the response of the financial crisis that reshaped financial markets and the global economy. So if you scroll through, it gives more of a positive light on the banking system here and how they are better prepared to handle what's to come. But at the end of the day, here we have a banker that's sharing his thoughts on what is currently transpiring now. I think it gives a very good foundation as to where we're standing currently, in the fact that most people believe that we've never truly recovered from this recession. So at the end of the day, you've been warned. So now that you've been warned, hopefully you believe that what is happening is real. And more importantly, the question I want to pose to you now is, we know it's not a matter of if, it's just more so a matter of when. And as he put in his article here, he said 2019 at best. So my question to you is, do you think it could actually happen before the end of this year? Or will he be proven correct in it happening next year in 2019? And so this gives you more time to get prepared. Other than that, hope all is well. Look forward to bringing more RT News updates. Enjoy your day.